What's going on, bottom line viewers? It's Mitch here live for a NFL Week 4 review and reaction, giving you my thoughts on the main storylines of week number 4, my biggest takeaways from week number 4. It's a fresh new time slot. Let me know which time slot you prefer in the comment section below or in the live comment. I also left a poll in the live comment section for you guys. Let me know which time slot you prefer: before Monday Night Football, after Monday Night Football, Tuesday during the day, or Tuesday night for the NFL Weekly Review. I know that different people do it at different times and different people prefer different times. So whichever time slot gets the most votes is the one that I'm going to move forward with, because I've tried each and every time slot to see which helps you guys view the video here live. So that being said, make sure that you do vote in the live comment section. Let me know how you guys are doing. Let me know how you guys are feeling about week number 4, what your main takeaways are for week number 4 this NFL season, how pumped or not pumped you are about your team moving forward. This is the NFL Weekly Review, where I rant and rave about the latest in the NFL. Before I get started, guys, make sure that you do spike the like button. Definitely helps the algorithm and more people find the BLV and my show. Also, spike the notification bell so that you are notified when I go live each and every week for the NFL Weekly Review. Don't forget to subscribe if you are a new viewer to the BLV. Before we get started, guys, quick. Monday Night Football is tonight, so make sure that you do head over to Underdog Fantasy for the pick'em tonight for Monday Night Football. Make sure to put a pick'em in for Monday Night Football. Use the promo code BLV and sign up. They will double your first deposit at Underdog Fantasy. You can get up to a free $100, okay, at Underdog Fantasy. Check it out. Pick'ems, I've shown you guys how it works each and every time, so make sure to check it out. Underdog Fantasy, link in the description. I'll be playing a pick'em tonight for Monday Night Football. I'm pretty sure I'm going to be on the unders, or the lowers as they call it, for the Rams and some of their offensive pieces. I think I'm going to be on some of the overs for guys like Brandon Ayuk. So make sure to check out Underdog Fantasy. If you're a big fan of player props, that's a great place to go. Use the promo code BLV and double your first deposit, guys. Okay, it's time to review week number 4. Let me know if you're here in the live comments. Now, my first discussion is going to be about the New England Patriots and the Green Bay Packers. I went live for that game. My Patriots fall to the Packers and Aaron Rodgers in Lambeau Field, 27-24, in probably the most unlikely great game of week number 4. The most unlikely great game of week number 4. And we saw, once again, we see this, I feel like, a few times a season, where Bill Belichick just showcases why he's still one of the greatest coaches in football, why he is regarded as the greatest coach in NFL history, and how he is still a great coach today. Because I know a lot of people question him and his decisions and even his coaching at times, but I think Belichick in this game gave his team an opportunity to win the game. They lost 27-24 in overtime. The game went down to the wire. Belichick did some great things to make his team competitive in this one, but there's also a takeaway that I'll get to about what Belichick can still continue to get better at to give his team a better opportunity to win this game. But my main takeaway from this game for both sides. So first and foremost, for the Patriots, I think the Patriots might actually be pretty good. Now, this is 4 games in, a quarter through the season, and yes, the team is 1-3. Now, remember, the team was 1-3 last year. They made the playoffs last year, right, at 10-7, I believe. So they still have an opportunity to turn this around, especially with the upcoming schedule that the team has. They play the Lions next week at home. Now, Mac will probably be out for 1 more week, maybe 2 more weeks. But looking at their schedule, it softens up a bit, because when you look at the previous schedule, They've played the Miami Dolphins in Miami, a place where they traditionally struggle, versus a very good football team so far this year that has one loss really in a game where their quarterback got hurt. They lost to arguably the best player in the NFL right now, Lamar Jackson, in a shootout-esque game where they had plenty of opportunities to win at home, where they turned the football over too much. And then they lost in overtime to Aaron Rodgers, the two-time MVP consecutively, in Lambeau, a place that a lot of teams just don't win. And their only win was against the Steelers. I get it. Not a very good team, but they did win that game sort of decisively. So they've played against some of the top dogs in the NFL, and the games have gone down to the wire in each and every game. And they've had plenty of opportunities to win. This is very much like the way that the season went last year for the Patriots, where they lost to a couple teams that were better than them, pretty close games like that Bucs game last year, like the Cowboys game last year, and they could have won those games. This game reminds me a lot of the Cowboys game from last year, where that's kind of the point in the season where they started to turn things around. And I feel like New England is about to turn things around in the win column, and I think they're about to start to gain some momentum. On the other side, for the Packers, I come away a bit concerned about this performance for the Packers. Now, Aaron Rodgers did enough to win this game. He made some brilliant throws, as Bill Belichick brought up at the end of the game. He made some throws, as Belichick stated, that only Aaron Rodgers could make, and he was simply too good for the Patriots at the end of the day. So, a lot of credit from Belichick towards Rodgers, who I want to say Rodgers is one of Belichick's favorite quarterbacks. I truly do believe that, and it's because of how he manages games and because of how smart he is. I think that's why Belichick truly loves Aaron Rodgers as a football player. And he gave him plenty of props after the game, it's always cool to see, one legendary coach, player give props to another legendary coach or player. That is always cool from my perspective. Now, the Packers won the game mostly because of Rodgers, but at the end of the day, I look at the game and I say, this is not going to be a formula for them to beat the elite teams in the playoffs. This is not going to be a team that can beat the best teams in January because their defense is too inconsistent right now. They're really not good versus the run. Despite playing a second and third string quarterback, the Patriots averaged about 4 to 5 yards per pop, per carry on a regular basis. When the Packers were trying to defend the run, they simply couldn't defend the run. And they gave the Patriots an opportunity to stay in this game because of it. And there was no real semblance or threat of a pass from the Patriots a majority of the game because they had Bailey Zappi in the game. And then on the other side, that puts them in the back end at a vulnerable situation because it makes their back end potentially a little bit more exposed to some big plays down the field, which we saw the Patriots execute a couple times, even with their third string quarterback in there. Devontae Parker, big touchdown, couple plays to Nelson Aguilar, couple plays to Kendrick Bourne. The Patriots popped some big gains in the passing game, despite only throwing it, I want to say under 20 times in the whole game. So it's a concern for the Packers that they're so lopsided in what they do well and what they clearly don't do very well. On top of that, I just don't believe that Joe Barry is a very good coach. I know that they had a good performance against the Bucs last week, but again, a lot of that had to do with the Bucs personnel. A lot of that had to do with the Bucs shooting themselves in the foot. Not a lot to do, in my opinion, with how the Packers defense actually played. I love their pass rush, especially Rashawn Gary and Kenny Clark, but that's the only area where they stand out right now, in my opinion. On the other side, it just feels like they're very run-centric. It's all about the run game. And whenever they get put in a clear passing situation, it's on Rodgers to make brilliant plays and brilliant throws into tight windows. And if a team can actually man up with the Packers and force some tight window throws, it's just sometimes too hard on Aaron Rodgers. And that's where you might see some inconsistencies down the road for this offense is these receivers just aren't making a ton of plays. Allen Lazard made a couple, Dobbs made a couple, but there's no Devontae Adams anymore, and there's no guy that you have to defend, you have to double, you have to respect. And I think versus very good defenses, and the Patriots are a solid to good defense, I think, and they gave the Packers a lot of issues in the first half. It was just that the Patriots offensively, couldn't really take the game. And I think the Patriots defense was vulnerable in the second half to Rodgers making pinpoint brilliant throws down the field. And ultimately they were able to come back. But the Packers, again, just another week where I look at them and I say, yeah, they're a good team. Yeah, they'll probably make the playoffs. Maybe they're even the best team in their division. I don't think they're a great team. I don't think they're a true contender right now, the way that they look and the way that they feel. Now, as a Patriots fan, I'm proud of my team. I'm proud of how they played. I'm proud of how they competed. Obviously, they didn't have their quarterback, Mac Jones. Their second quarterback, their backup, Brian Hoyer, got knocked out of the game in the first quarter. They didn't have their best receiver in Jacoby Myers. They didn't even have arguably their best cornerback in Jalen Mills. All of those players were hurt in the game, and they still almost won. And for a large portion, they had an opportunity to win that game. I think if Mac Jones plays in the game, they do win the game. So there is some positives, some victories to take from the game despite the loss. Now, when I question the Patriots, the defense is kind of weird to me. I'm kind of wondering about the Patriots defense, like, where do they rank? How do they scale against the rest of the NFL? It feels like they've been very inconsistent this year. There's times where they're really, really good and they're borderline dominant, and then there's other times where they're super inconsistent and they give up too many big plays and splash plays, and then the offense is able to put up points in bunches against them. So they've got to figure out a way to be more consistent on the defensive side of the football. Even in overtime, though, saying that they stopped the Packers. The first possession, the Packers got the ball. They stopped them. They gave an opportunity to win that game just by a field goal, and they were not able to come through on offense and gave another chance to the Packers to go down and kick a field goal. So the Pats defense right now is weird. I think they're good, but they're not great. They're inconsistent. They've got to figure out a way to be consistent. Some of that comes in their run defense, where sometimes they're vulnerable there. Sometimes it's in the cornerback play of the team, where they clearly don't have an elite corner anymore, but they've got a bunch of good guys who can play with stretches of good play, but then also stretches of kind of giving up some big plays down the field. I think their biggest weakness lies at linebacker, which we saw today, an immediate move by the Patriots. They let go of one of their practice squad linebackers, and they brought in, once again, Jamie Collins. So Jamie Collins is back for the Patriots. We'll see if he can contribute there. Because why do they have Tavai out there? That's a mystery to me. The guy can't run sideline to sideline. He can't cover. And every quarterback so far just attacks the middle of the field wherever he is on the field. Juwan Bentley is a solid player, but he's not a great coverage guy either. So potentially Jamie Collins coming in, giving them a little bit more athleticism, or potentially even pass rush from that linebacker position could be nice. So we'll see how he works out. Jack Jones was absolutely phenomenal in this game. He just screams playmaker. He screamed playmaker in his college tape. He screamed playmaker in the preseason with a number of plays. And then in this game, he had a pick six on an out route looking like Ty Law in Super Bowl 36 versus Kurt Warner. And then he had a punched out fumble as well. So this guy is just a playmaker. He reminds me a lot of J.C. Jackson. He's not quite the frame or as big or as physical as J.C. Jackson, but the playmaking ability that this team and this defense could use. Now, he will probably fall back into that fourth corner spot when Jalen Mills comes back, because Jalen Mills didn't play in this game. But I definitely think that the weakness right now is Miles Bryant. He should be taken off the field for Jack Jones, and you can slide Jonathan Jones into the nickel spot. And then I think you've got the potential to have Jack Jones and Jalen Mills on the outside with Jonathan Jones back at his natural nickel spot to make this defense a lot better. It was nice to see Matthew Judon show up in a big game. He had a dominant performance in this one against Elgton Jenkins, who's a pretty good tackle, and he dominated him. He even forced the pressure to force the Packers off the field on the first possession of overtime. And another takeaway for me is the rookie class of the Patriots could be a very big one for them. It could be a game changer for them. Jack Jones has shown well. Marcus Jones shown some ability in the kick return game, and he could be a promising corner down the road. Cole Strange has been awesome at guard so far this year, especially in the run game. Tyquan Thornton showed flashes in the preseason. He will be back at some point this year to add some speed to the offense that they desperately need. And, this this rookie class could be one of Belichick's better ones based on how they've played so far and how they've contributed right away. But it's clear that this team kind of is finding their identity on offense, on defense. Their pass rush continues to give them a chance and play well. The running backs are phenomenal. Damian Harris and Stevenson continue to dominate. And Matt Patricia, let's give some credit to Matt Patricia, man. Matt Patricia has been getting better and better and better with every game as an offensive coordinator. And Matt Patricia, I've been very pleased with as a play caller so far this year. There's a lot of questions about Matt Patricia coming into this year, but I think he's done a very good job for a first-time play caller for this offense so far this year. And I thought he had his best game yesterday, considering the circumstances, with the running game, with the play action, even with some of the trickery they threw in there from time to time as well. Now, of course, you guys want me to talk about Bailey Zappi, who came into play for Brian Hoyer when Hoyer went out. I thought Zappi was okay. I thought he showed a lot of composure. I thought he showed a lot of confidence. I thought he showed a lot of toughness. I thought he showed a lot of intangibles that are nice to have for an NFL quarterback. I thought he even showed a lot of touch and accuracy in certain throws. But it's clear that this guy, to me, almost screams like a long-term Brian Hoyer. Like, he feels like a long-term backup to me because he just simply doesn't have the physical tools to be a starting quarterback. He is reminiscent a little bit of like Cooper Rush for the Cowboys. He can execute an offense. He can see the field. He can make throws. He can move a little, but he doesn't have a lot of arm strength. He doesn't have a lot of, right now he does struggle with holding on to the ball. That's with experience. That will come. He took too many sacks. He made too many, negative plays. But he'll get better, and I think he is a promising backup long-term, especially to a guy like Mac Jones, who he almost plays like a lesser version of Mac Jones right now. So that's nice to have long-term at that position. But I was pleased with his performance and with his effort. I thought he made a number of plays. He was savvy. He was tough. And that's all I can ask for from my backup. Lastly on this game, have you ever seen a coach that was as excited to beat a third-string quarterback than Matt LaFleur? Looking like the end of the breakfast club there with his hands up in the air. Man was like, he looked like Stone Cold Steve Austin getting to the top rope. Matt LaFleur throwing his arms up in the air in celebration from that big victory there. Huge victory, Matt LaFleur. Congratulations. Continues to be the most overrated coach in football. And then we've got Matt LaFleur. I can't believe this guy. I've never seen a coach, besides possibly Jason Garrett, who he pumps up the crowd. Have you guys ever seen a coach go like this? It's third down, one of the biggest plays of the game, and he's pumping the crowd up. He's done this since his rookie year. Why is he pumping the crowd up? Aren't there like people in the stands that are responsible for that job? Bro, you're the coach of the Green Bay Packers. Your defense is on the field. You're supposed to be managing the game. You're supposed to be figuring out the future of your offense that's struggling. Why are you pumping the crowd up? And then you're... Oh, God. This guy's something else. But thank you, Leo, for the super chat. He says, look at the Bucs schedule, Mitch. The brutal opening gauntlet is over. Now it gets a lot more favorable for the team. Absolutely, Leo. I agree with you, man. And I'm going to throw your comment up there. We're going to talk about the Bucs at the end of the show and the end of the video, okay? But, yeah, I agree. No doubt. Their schedule gets a lot easier. And I don't think they'll be losing many more games if they're healthy. Because it looks like at least one of the sides of the ball has figured out what's going on. Okay. I do want to comment quick on another team that is now 3-1 on the season. An NFC team that nobody saw coming except for yours truly as the sleeper team of 2022. I'm talking about the GMEN. The New York GMEN are now 3-1 with a win over the Chicago Bears. They had Daniel Jones get injured, Tyrod Taylor get injured at one point. Daniel Jones had to come back into the game. They found a way to win. Now, my question is, do the Giants actually have a chance to make the playoffs this year? I think we've got to start talking about that. The NFC is weak. The NFC is open to be exploited. Can the G-Men actually get to the playoffs this year? Now, first, Daniel Jones has got to be healthy because I don't think they're making it without him. Daniel Jones deserves some respect, deserves some credit for the 3-1 start because I know that he never gets any credit. I do think they need to improve up front, protecting for Daniel Jones. I do think they need to figure out their wide receiver situation. The answer is Kadarius Toney. Okay, it's Kadarius Toney. But DJ is playing well. Saquon's playing like a phenom. Don Martindale has this team playing solid, sound defense. And now they're going to hit a tough part of the schedule. The beginning of the year was pretty easy. The beginning of the year was a bit of a cakewalk, but they won the games. They won 3 out of 4, which is all you can ask as a Giants fan. A team that was expected to be rebuilding, a team that was expected to have a top 5 pick next year. They're 3-1 right now. They have an opportunity to actually be a playoff competitor, to sneak in. Now, they will be going to Green Bay next week. They will be facing Lamar Jackson and the Ravens the week after. They will be facing the Jags the week after that. They will be facing the Cowboys, the Eagles twice, and the Vikings for the rest of the season. Those are all going to be tough games. But they also face the Seahawks. They also face the Texans. They also face the Lions. They also get to play Carson Wentz twice, and they play Matt Ryan. So, when you look at that schedule and the way it lays out, I don't know. The Giants got a chance. The way that Saquon's playing as the best back in the league, the way that this defense continues to get better and better under the coaching, the way that they play and they scheme offensively, I think the team's got a chance to make some noise. I'm rooting for them for the rest of the year. Let's talk about another team that has surprised, the Atlanta Falcons. The Falcons took on the Browns this past week, and they won the game 23-20. Now, when I went back and watched the game, I thought they had no business winning the game. Atlanta only completed 7 passes in this entire game, and they won. That doesn't happen very often, okay? So there's not much to take away from this one. I thought even despite not having Jadeveon Clowney, not having Myles Garrett, the Browns defense played well. The Browns defense gave them a chance to win. And the Browns really gave this game to the Atlanta Falcons. They gave this game on a silver platter to the Atlanta Falcons. The Falcons are now tied with the Bucs at 2-2 after 4 games. And they will play the Bucs in week 5 for the division lead. That's an impressive start for an Atlanta team that many thought could be the worst team in the NFL. But I've been discussing week after week after week how impressed I am with the Atlanta offense, how impressed I am with Arthur Smith, how impressed I am with their offensive scheme. Now, Dean Pease did a solid job versus, a run game that I felt like they were overmatched against. But I look at this game and I watch it back and I say, how did the Browns lose this one? I mean, the first drive of the game, the Browns move the ball at will. They go down the field. They're inside the 5-yard line, and they decide to go for the touchdown. Now, Kevin Stefanski, I understand trusting analytics and all that stuff, but it's the first drive of the game, bro. Just take the points. Just take it. You're playing Atlanta. You can't trust your defense enough to make a couple stops in this game. You got to go for it on the first drive. You're not playing Tom Brady. You're not playing Patrick Mahomes. You're not playing Josh Allen. You're not playing Lamar Jackson. Why are you going for it on the first drive of the game? Just kick the field goal. It's not like you have Patrick Mahomes. You got Jacoby Brissett, okay? So just take the field goal. Instead, they go for it. They don't get it. So it's 0-0 there. And then, the series after, David Njoku, at the 30-yard line, their own 30-yard line, he fumbles the ball. So Atlanta takes those two mistakes by Cleveland, and they go up 10-0 with really limited yards on the day so far. Like, they didn't really have to do much to put points up on the board. And then they really made one play. I mean, it was a nice Cordell Patterson run outside the tackle. He cut back. Like, that was impressive. Other than that, they did nothing on offense to start that game, and they're up 10-0. So Cleveland really gave the game to Atlanta early. And then, what do you know? Cleveland, proving they're the better, more talented team, comes back in the game. I think they were up 13-10. And then they give it away again. So I look at this game and I say, like, yeah, Atlanta won. But I look at the game and I say, Cleveland's probably better. You know, they didn't have their best player in the game, so that obviously hurts. But I look at Cleveland, and I still like what I've seen from Cleveland so far. And I feel like Atlanta, yeah, I like what I've seen from them, but there's a difference between liking what I've seen and actually believing that long-term they're going to be something special. Like, I like the story. I like where they're at. I like that they're 2-2. But it's kind of like a change of, you know, expectations, right? With Atlanta, I'm not expecting much. Like, if they go 7 wins, I think you're happy this year. And that's kind of how I see them. I see them with a higher projected win total than I did before the year. They're probably going to win 6-7 games this year. But I don't buy them after this game from what I saw in that game as a team that could maybe be sneaky and win and go to the playoffs or win this division, especially not that. So I view Atlanta as, sure, a lot of people are going to overreact. They're 2-2 and say they're a playoff team. I'm not buying that. I actually like Cleveland from what I've seen so far this year. So Atlanta wins, Cleveland loses, but that wasn't my overall takeaway from that game. One of the games that I did cover live on the channel was the Baltimore Ravens and the Buffalo Bills. This was a live stream of the week. Make sure that you guys are checking out each and every week. The live streams are always a ton of fun. This was a real interesting game between two teams that are projected as AFC contenders long term. So the game starts and Baltimore immediately smacks Buffalo in the mouth. And I kind of feel like Buffalo was taken back by the approach of Baltimore's defense. Baltimore's defense early in the game played a lot of man coverage and played a lot of like aggressive man coverage. They didn't blitz a lot in the game, and especially early, but they played a lot of like kind of 2-man, and then they were playing extremely tight coverage early in the game. Especially in the rain, that can be difficult if you have good matchups on the defensive side of the football. In the rain, when you're having to throw into tight windows, there's a lot of mistakes that can happen there. And that's what I felt like happened early for Buffalo. So on the first drive, Josh Allen throws an interception. It knocks off the hands of Dawson Knox, but because of the tough and tight coverage by Baltimore, there's another defender right in the area who picks the pass off. It makes it a tight window throw. The ball goes off of Dawson Knox's hands. It's intercepted by Marlon Humphrey. He takes it back deep into Buffalo territory, and then Baltimore scores. They're up 7-0. Then, they get another stop. They go up 10-0, I believe. And then later in the half, Devin Singletary gets the ball popped out. Again, rain. Again, turnovers in the rain. Those things matter. Then Baltimore gets the ball. Baltimore goes up even bigger. So 2 turnovers in the first half that led directly to Baltimore points in the game. So those were huge in the first half. And Baltimore benefited from mistakes from Buffalo. It wasn't like Baltimore was just absolutely dominating the game. They weren't running away from the game. And that's a lesson to take from this game, guys. Whenever you're looking for potential comebacks as a fan, read how the game is going. Like, watch how the game is going. Does this feel fluky to you? Or does this feel sustainable to you? And that's something to always look for in potential comebacks. Does this feel like one team is just not really playing that well and they can get back in the game? Like, what is happening in the game, right? Both quarterbacks, though, definitely had their periods of struggling. Allen early in the game, Lamar later in the game. Although I don't want to put too much blame on Lamar for losing this game, as a majority of the blame, in my opinion, for the Ravens crumbling in the game and losing the lead is on the play calling offensively. I think they got too conservative on offense. I thought they ran the ball, especially with their running backs, far too often. And in the second half, third and fourth quarter, it just wasn't working. Buffalo, it was working early, and then all of a sudden, Buffalo made halftime adjustments. Buffalo figured out what the Ravens were doing in the first half that kind of gashed them early on. And then they shifted their approach. McDermott, Leslie Frazier, they came out with a different approach. They slowed that down, and the Ravens had no answers to attack the Bills' defense in the second half. One of the biggest things that I was impressed with in the game early for Baltimore was how well they were actually protecting Lamar Jackson. I thought the offensive line of the Ravens was actually playing very well in the run game and the pass game. I thought they were doing a good job because we wondered, how would the Ravens' offensive attack hold up as a deep passing attack trying to throw down the field and versus this four-man rush that's getting more pressure than anyone despite only sending 4 men a majority of the time. And Baltimore's pass blocking was actually really, really impressive from my perspective early in the game. There was one ridiculous highlight reel play. If you go back and watch the highlights for this game, there was a ridiculous Lamar Jackson throw to Devin Duvernay where he throws it, it bounces, or he escapes a sack, does a spinorama. I missed that part. It looked like Eli Manning in the Super Bowl. Turns around, chucks it up, out of panic. It goes off the hands of Andrews, and then Duvernay catches it on the sidelines. That was a ridiculous play. I like what I saw from Dobbins and Justice Hill in this game from the Ravens, especially early on. Later, again, like I said, they got kind of stopped because the Ravens' run game, their scheme wasn't working as well. My biggest takeaway from the Ravens, though, is honestly that I think their defense found some things overall that is going to work for them long term. Their biggest approach to stop and to slow down the Bills in the first half was play a lot of man and enforce tight windows and put Marlon Humphrey on Gabe Davis one-on-one and double team Stephon Diggs with Marcus Peters and a safety. And a lot of that was working for them. And I just felt like their back end, their secondary was playing a lot better than it has in previous weeks. Their pass rush still wasn't really getting there. It wasn't very good, but they were really making Josh Allen hold on to the ball. And I thought their defense was playing phenomenal early, and that gave them a chance to extend the lead when they were able to. What else here? Sloppy football a bit. Allen, at the end of the day, made 1 or 2 more plays in the second half than Lamar ended up making. But again, a lot of that had to do with the conservative approach of the play calling by the offense of the Ravens. There was an unfortunate interception by Lamar Jackson where the ball got batted at the line of scrimmage by one of the defensive linemen of Buffalo. Good job getting their hands up. And then Jordan Poyer picked it off. That was a huge play. The score wasn't actually, the Bills didn't come back in the fourth quarter. The score was tied 20-20 at the end of the third. So this was like a fresh new ball game by the fourth quarter, which is what I thought a lot of people, doing analysis on TV, Sunday Night Football, all that stuff were kind of missing. Like this game was a fresh new ball game by the beginning of the fourth quarter. There was a whole new game, and it ended up being the final score 23-20. So the Ravens defense was still doing their part in the fourth quarter for a majority of the time. And there were a lot of questions about the decisions by Harbaugh overall. And at the end of the game, they drive down the field. There's about 4 minutes left in the game. The Bills still have all 3 timeouts, and they get the ball to the 1 or 2 yard line by 2nd and goal. 1st and goal is a big play, I think it was to Andrews, a pass to Andrews gets down to the 1 yard line, and then they aren't able to execute from the 1 yard line to get a touchdown to make it 27-20. So they get to 4th down, they get stuffed on one play, they get negative yards. Then on 3rd down and goal, Lamar passes it. They don't have anything there. And then on 4th and goal, they decide to go for it. So there was a lot of like inner turmoil between Marcus Peters saying, "Oh, you don't trust our defense," to John Harbaugh. And my overall takeaway from that and my overall thoughts on that is, okay, there's 4 minutes left. There's 3 timeouts for the Bills. And in the moment on the stream, if you guys want to go back and look, I talked about the decision. And my overall thought on that is you go for it there. Now, I was a little bit confused why they didn't give an opportunity for Lamar to run it on 2nd or 3rd and goal. You know, the first play, they run it with Dobbins out of like a pure goal line package. 3rd and goal, he throws it. Like, one of those plays has got to be a Lamar run, doesn't it? It's got to be a Lamar quarterback run. And especially in those situations where you've got an advantage on the defense when your quarterback runs the ball because you've got an extra blocker. I don't really understand that. Okay? But 4th and goal, they pass it, and Lamar ends up getting intercepted. That is where everything changed because the decision there on 4th and goal factors in a couple things. It factors in, first and foremost, that a touchdown, at the worst we can do if we score a touchdown, they're going to tie it and we're going to go to overtime, right? That's the worst that can happen. Secondly, if we kick a field goal there, they still have an opportunity to go down and they're going to get the ball at the 25-yard line, their own 25. It's Josh Allen. He can go down, score a touchdown, and we lose the game anyways. They're probably going to go down the field and get a field goal because it's Josh Allen, right? You got to factor those things in. Despite how well your defense is playing, it's still Josh Allen in a clutch situation at the end of the game with one of the best offenses in the league with 4 downs to convert. So ultimately, they're probably going to have 4 downs to convert, whether it's a touchdown or a field goal that they need, which is something that Harbaugh in the post-game press conference, I think was a little off because he said, they would have had 4 downs to convert to score a touchdown. Well, yeah, but they would have also had 4 downs to convert to get a field goal. So that's kind of where, you know, you're missing both sides. Like, it doesn't really change there. The other thing that you could factor in there is that Allen, you know, with, like, the Bills could have maybe played it a bit more conservatively if they only needed a field goal. Maybe they take their time a little bit more and they kick the field goal and you go to overtime. That's also under consideration, but that you probably lean towards, the Bills are going to be aggressive because they're aggressive generally, but that's also a possibility. Lastly, the last thing that you have to factor in is, well, if you don't get it at the 1 or 2 yard line, well, then the Bills get the ball at the 2 yard line, right? They do, unless you throw an interception for a touchback. And that's exactly what ended up happening, which was unfortunate for the Ravens, because if you start a drive at the 2 yard line, it's really hard to drive 98 yards for a touchdown. That difference between 18 yards is probably the reason the game, you know, the Bills probably still win, right? Considering their drive. But if you start at the 2 yard line, that's a lot harder than starting from the 20, right? So that just changes the plays you can call, especially on the early first couple downs, because you're backed up in your own end zone. So all those things need to be taken into consideration. But ultimately, that decision is not why the Ravens won or lost. When you look at why the Ravens lost, well, there's a few key statistics. The Ravens scored 0 points in the second half. 0. Right? They had 7 3-and-outs in the entire game. 7 3-and-outs. So, I mean, I don't know, man. I feel like Mark Andrews didn't get the ball enough. And Rashad Bateman continues to kind of be too inconsistent within the offense. And the play calling's got to be better. Continuously, it just feels like Greg Roman is not able to respond to good coaching when that coaching adjusts to what he's doing. He needs to be better at adjusting to what happened. Okay? So the Ravens could have won the game, didn't win the game because in the second half, their offense didn't come to play. They needed more points than 20 to win, especially against the Bills. The next game is the Jacksonville Jags and the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, this game was kind of like that one game early in the year where I wanted to see how good are the Eagles, how great are the Eagles, and how much better are they than the Jags. Now, unlike a lot of people, I thought the Jags were a good team. I didn't think they were a great team. I took them plus the 6.5 because I thought they were a lot better than Vegas thought. And in a lot of ways, Jacksonville should have covered this game. A lot of people that didn't watch this game, Jacksonville had an opportunity to not only run away with it early, they were up 14-0 by the end of the first quarter, and they got a 4th down stop at the end of the first quarter to give them the ball back at their own 40-yard line. They could have ran away with the game early. Now, they did get a pick 6. There were some unlucky things in the game early for Philadelphia, and they had to overcome that, which shows their supremacy, shows how good they are. So there's takeaways for both sides. Jacksonville early on jumped on the Eagles, could have taken the game early, despite the rain, despite being on the road, despite all that stuff. But then on the other side, the Eagles showed how good they were by coming back. Sometimes it's not always lucky to come back. Sometimes when you come back, you're just that much better than the other team because you have to not only, play the game as it already is constituted, but you have to overcome all your mistakes early on. So the Eagles were able to do that, right? So it showed that the Jacksonville Jags are good. The Jacksonville Jags can play, but the Jacksonville Jags are not ready to step up in class. That's kind of what this game showed to me. Now, the 7-3 and out stat that I brought up for Baltimore was actually me making a mistake in my notes and reading it wrong. It was actually about Jacksonville. And that's part of the reason that they lost, okay? So take away that from your brain about Baltimore. That's actually about Jacksonville. They had 7-3 and outs in this game, and that kind of showed why they weren't able to maintain the lead in the game. But the bigger reason they weren't able to win this game is because of all the turnovers they had. I mean, Trevor Lawrence simply showed that he's not ready for that level of competition. And Jacksonville, just on offense, didn't feel like they had a good game plan. They couldn't really block the Eagles consistently in the passing game. They weren't able to run the ball as well as they have been able to run the ball. And again, another week of the Eagles defense playing really well. Playing really, really well and overcoming the bad play from Jalen Hurts. Because I didn't think Jalen Hurts played very well. Jalen Hurts did not play very well in this game. He's played great all year. Did not play very well in this game. And the Eagles were able to overcome it. Why? Because they're a complete team. Because they are a great team. Because they had a great running game with Miles Sanders. Because they had a lot of great defense in the game. Now, you look at it, Trevor Lawrence made some horrible mistakes. He fumbled the ball 4 times in the game. He lost control of the ball 4 times in this game because of the rain. But that just showed you that's young mistakes. That's a guy that probably isn't used to playing in that environment, that type of weather, and that ultimately cost him the game. There was an interception that got away from him. But ultimately, the biggest takeaway is a different level in class. The Eagles were so much better that they were able to overcome their mistakes early. They were able to play, despite not the greatest game from their quarterback that everybody's saying MVP. Well, they run the ball. They execute there. They run for over 200 yards. Their defense dominates. They're able to win. That's a complete team. Jacksonville, their defense still played really, really well. They gave them plenty of opportunities to come back, plenty of opportunities to win. Even a last drive with 2 minutes left where they could have went down the field. And again, they fumbled the ball. Trevor Lawrence just made too many mistakes. Their offense wasn't prepared to step up in class, and they lost this game. Shout out to Hot Take Hockey in the chat. Jets versus the Steelers. So the biggest takeaways and stories from this game are, of course, about the quarterbacks. For the New York Jets, we have Zach Wilson playing his first game off of injury. And for the Pittsburgh Steelers, we weren't sure if we were going to see Kenny Pickett anytime soon. Well, Kenny Pickett also made his debut. So first, rest in peace, Mitchell Trubisky. Probably never going to be a long-term starting quarterback in the NFL any longer. I didn't think in this game he was that awful, but it was clear that the Pittsburgh Steelers needed a source of momentum. They needed something to push them. It's almost like in hockey, Hot Take Hockey, where you pull your goalie for momentum. Not really because your goalie is playing bad or he's letting up weak goals, but you need to pull your goalie because the team is playing bad, because the team needs a kick in the butt. You know what I mean? That's what the Steelers did at halftime here by putting in Kenny Pickett. And it actually gave them a jolt of energy, right? They scored 2 touchdowns. They go up 20-10 in the game. 20-10 was the score with 13 minutes left in this game, guys. 20-10 Pittsburgh Steelers had an opportunity to win with 13 minutes and 30 seconds left. There were a couple developments in this game. Kenny Pickett, from a physical profile perspective, the arm looked pretty decent. The size is definitely a guy that you kind of feels on the field when he's playing in the NFL. You didn't know how that would translate. Kind of feels bigger and stronger than you would think. His speed, his athleticism, his savviness to run, his physicality when he runs, better than you would think. But he did make some rookie mistakes. He did throw some bad interceptions in the game. He threw a couple bad picks in the game. One of them by the right sideline where he forced the ball. That gave the Jets an opportunity to come back in the game. One of them was a Hail Mary. That doesn't really matter. But the biggest takeaway for me, I also got to say, Pickett, that combination, Pickett to Pickens, that will be pretty interesting to watch throughout the rest of the season and moving forward. The only thing I will say about Pickens in a negative fashion, he makes a lot of ridiculous grabs and a lot of great grabs, but almost all of them are in contested situations. Something that Kenny Pickett does very well as a young quarterback is trust his receivers to make plays. But he does got to target more players across the field other than just Pickens, the rookie from Georgia. My biggest takeaway was Zach Wilson in this game. Zach Wilson, despite the numbers, despite the box score that you might look at if you didn't watch the game, I thought Zach Wilson played very well in this game, especially when he needed to play well for his team to win. So he seemed more confident in the pocket than he did as a rookie. I thought he navigated the pocket very, very well in this game, avoiding pressure very well. He, I think, looked even better than last year in terms of his mobility to avoid sacks and negative plays with a bad offensive line in a way that Joe Flacco would have never been able to do. And that's where they really missed Zach Wilson. I felt like Zach Wilson, if he wasn't in this game and Joe Flacco would have been sacked 7 times in this game. It would have been bad. It would have been ugly. You know, Zach was sacked a couple times, but he avoided a lot of negative plays. He threw the ball away, or he was able to kind of move around the pocket, scramble, do those things. And that's just something that Joe Flacco at this stage in his career can't do. I thought that he was very accurate with the football. Almost all of his throws were right on the money. He basically didn't miss any throws. He made some bad decisions. He made one bad decision on an interception. The other interception was Conklin's fault. It bounced right off the top of his hands that went into the lap of the defender. The other interception was a bad throw. He didn't see the safety down the field, threw it right to him. That was a bad decision. But I mean, Zach Wilson's pocket mobility, his mobility in general, his toughness was on display, his accuracy was on display, his arm strength, his ability to throw from multiple different angles on display, and he showed some clutch ability in this game. You know, down 20-10. Again, they needed 2 touchdowns. They scored 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter, converting on 4th down. Converting on 4th down and 7 with 9 minutes left in the game. Game on the line, needed to have it. He hits Corey Davis. A couple times on 3rd down, hit Corey Davis, hit Elijah Moore in the game for big plays. I mean, I thought Zach Wilson was really good, not only at avoiding the negative and being a smart, savvy quarterback in his second season and showing massive strides from, going from bonehead to actually savvy second year, but making plays, making throws, putting the ball into tight windows accurately. I thought Zach Wilson was far more impressive than the box score would indicate, and that was my biggest takeaway from the game and ultimately why the Jets won. The Steelers were the better team. The Steelers got a better pass rush. The Steelers had better coverage. The Steelers had a better run game. The Steelers did everything better other than quarterback in this game, and that's why the Jets won the game, ultimately. The Jets are also 2-0 on the road for the first time since 2015, which is pretty crazy. The Raiders resurrect this week in week number 4. The Las Vegas Raiders versus the Denver Broncos. 25 first downs to only 12 first downs. The Raiders out moved the football versus the Denver Broncos. 25 first downs to 12, guys. 25 to 12. If you minus 25 minus 12, that's 13. The difference between the first downs in this game was more than the first downs the Broncos had in the entire game, including when they were losing the game, trailing the game, and having garbage time in the game when they got free first downs. So the Raiders, they won the game by 2 scores. They won the game comfortably at the end. The game was close in moments, at the beginning, in the middle. I believe it was even like 25-23 with 7 minutes left in the game. But the Raiders are a lot better than their record. And I'll be very intrigued to see how they play against the Chiefs, because that's a huge matchup for them. In some ways, they match up well with the Chiefs, and others they don't. So that will be interesting to watch. But the Raiders dominated this game, and they look like the team that is 2-1 and not 1-2, or not 0-3, I should say. And now they're 1-3, and now they have a chance to reverse their season. And I feel like when they play some of these weaker opponents, they'll start racking up their wins. But man, the Raiders looked good in this game. Offensively, they ran the rock really well. And that's what I've always been saying about McDaniel's offense. Everybody talks about Brady and Edelman and Gronk and Moss and Welker and all that stuff, but at the end of the day, McDaniels has always wanted balance. At the end of the day, balance is the cure for McDaniel's offense. When he can have balance in his offense, that's when you have a machine. That's when you can truly be dominant as a McDaniel's offense. And the Raiders' offense was dominant in this game. They moved the ball on every drive, it felt like. Almost every drive. I think they had maybe 1, maybe 2 3-and-outs. Besides that, they moved the ball up and down the field. And the only times they got stopped was in the red zone. They continued to have a couple red zone flaws. Not as many as against the Titans, but they were a lot better on third down this week. That's for sure. But they still need to work out some small things in the red zone, especially against a team like the Chiefs where you might need every touchdown to count. That's where maybe McDaniels should be more aggressive on fourth down and things in that game to get them the win if they are close. But I was impressed with the strides the Raiders took offensively in this game. I thought Derek Carr was in a better rhythm in this game because they were able to run the ball. Josh Jacobs had his best game. And really, Darren Waller and Devontae Adams had relatively quiet games. I think their passing game will be helped by Hunter Renfrow, but they ran the ball really, really well. That helped the rest of the offense. Defensively, Denzel Perryman being back in the middle of this defense really helped them against the run for the Broncos. He was flying all over the field. Daron Harmon continues to make plays for this team, popping out a fumble for Melvin Gordon. There was some key calls, I thought, defensively by the Raiders early in the game to gain momentum. A big reason the Raiders lost to the Titans is because their defense started off really slow, but they actually took it to the Broncos in this game. They caused a 3-and-out on the first Broncos drive. They blitz Russell Wilson on third down. They get to him. They cause a punt. That was huge, right? First drive, the Raiders go down. They get a field goal. The second drive of the game is the Broncos. They get a 3-and-out. The Raiders in control from the jump, which was huge. They got to play the way they wanted to play. For the Broncos, you have to be concerned about Javonte Williams and Randy Gregory being injured. Those things are huge for them moving forward. Arguably, their 2 biggest playmakers on both sides of the football. That's going to really hurt them significantly. Courtland Sutton stood out once again as the biggest playmaker for their offense. He seems to have rapport with Russell Wilson. He seems to be a difference maker. He seems to be the guy that Russell Wilson has most comfort in. But the things I saw with the Broncos this week was, the score. They scored more points than they typically have this year, but still a lot of inconsistency offensively. And this just feels like a Russell Wilson problem at this point. Like holding onto the ball too long, like not moving the ball enough, like getting rid of the ball to just get yourself in good situations. Like, it's too boom or bust for the Broncos right now offensively, and especially without Javonte Williams helping them in the running game. It's going to be interesting to see how this offense moves the football, because they're explosive. There was definitely more explosive plays in this game, to Jerry Jeudy, to Cortland Sutton, to KJ Hamler. They were all there, but it was few and far between. Like, 12 first downs speaks for itself, right? A lot of big chunk plays by the Broncos, but not a lot of consistency. Not a lot of consistent moving the football. So the Raiders look like the much better team, and I thought were more dominant than even the score suggested in this game. And I think they're going to be a team that, if they can stay healthy, because a lot of these other teams are getting injured, right? I think the Raiders are going to start to pick up some wins. And I do think they're going to give the Chiefs a good game on Monday night. I'm looking forward to that game. By the way, just a quick shout out to Geno Smith, who's playing absolutely fantastic football for the Seattle Seahawks. Haven't had time to go back and watch that one yet, but that was a crazy game. But the Seahawks got up big in that game. Got up huge in that game. Hopefully DK Metcalf is all right, but Geno Smith, man, shout out to you. I believed in you as a top backup, and now you're proving to me you're even better than I thought. You're a starter in this league. Congratulations to Geno Smith. That's a great story in Seattle. I hope they continue to win games. Okay, so the main event before Monday Night Football gets kicked off, I've got to discuss Sunday Night Football. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Kansas City Chiefs. The storyline, the takeaway from this game is that Andy Reid absolutely got his Super Bowl revenge versus Todd Bowles. In the Super Bowl, Todd Bowles schooled Andy Reid. He did anything and everything he wanted. In this game, Andy Reid was the superior coach. Andy Reid took it to Todd Bowles. He really had a top defense on the ropes. He had a top defense on their toes. He was never, ever off in this game. This was about as pitch perfect as an offensive game can flow and go. And I have a couple takeaways from that, but the biggest thing is the Chiefs executed to perfection. It was magnificent to watch, even from a Bucs fan perspective, even from somebody that was rooting for Tampa Bay, that thought Tampa Bay would win, that thought Tampa Bay's defense would do a heck of a lot better job. The Chiefs just had all the answers to all the things that the Bucs thought that they were going to get on the Chiefs from that side of the football. So shout out to Andy Reid for once again proving to us why he is an offensive genius, because that has not gone anywhere. From the run game that was superb and shocking, to the screen game that was the answer to the occasional long down situation. I remember a 3rd and 9, I want to say, where I'm like, oh, this is finally the spot where the Bucs can make a play defensively, because they weren't in many 3rd and long situations, the Chiefs, all day. It felt like they were in 3rd and 2, 3rd and 1, 3rd and 3, 3rd and 4, the whole game, which is ideal if you're playing the Bucs, because the Bucs are really good when they can be creative and they can blitz you and they can disguise their coverages and all that sort of stuff. Well, the Chiefs were so good on the ground, so good on early downs through the air, so good with their quick passing game, so good with their RPOs, so precise. Mahomes was, Kelsey was, and Reid was with his magical play calling, that they were out of those situations. They were never in those situations. It was perfect, magical, offensive play calling. But, right? Todd Bowles on that 3rd and 9 blitzes. And on that 3rd and 9, one of the only ones of the night, they throw a screen to Juju and it picks up the first down. That right there, when I was watching the game, I'm like, that right there is how you know Andy Reid was just dialed in, right? Just dialed in. He had every answer, right? Running the ball, creative runs to kind of avoid the middle of the field. Collinsworth did a good job of explaining this. Avoiding that big mass of men in the middle, trying to get around them with some wide zone trap concepts. And they were able to expose, make those big men flow sideline to sideline, right? And then be able to run that way. And certainly, the biggest shocking thing and takeaway from this game was how poorly the Tampa Bay run defense played. How bad the Tampa Bay run defense was. Not necessarily because we haven't seen weaknesses from the Bucs defense over the past year and a half, but because the Chiefs don't run the ball well, really on anyone. So that's where it was shocking. It wasn't shocking to see a team run the ball effectively and efficiently, but the Chiefs are pretty much unstoppable when you can't defend the run, because the Chiefs are already very difficult to stop when you have to put all the eggs in the stop the pass basket, when you have to stop Mahomes, you have to stop Kelsey. But when they can run the ball, it makes them pretty much unstoppable, even for a very talented defense like Tampa Bay. And I felt like Tampa Bay, just from an effort standpoint, they got outmanned. They got physically beat down by the offensive line of the Chiefs. They did not come to play on that side of the ball. They felt like an overconfident, cocky defense that thought they were just going to be able to do whatever they wanted in the run game with little to no effort. And they weren't able to, man. The Chiefs had all the answers from shotgun to under center. All of it was working for the run game. And that's what really set up the Chiefs to be really good in this game. Controlling the clock, keeping Brady on the sidelines, controlling the game. And it started from the first play of the game. I mean, I wonder how the game would have been different if Rachaad White doesn't fumble the first play of the game. Because the first play of the game is the kick return. He fumbles, and then the Chiefs get 2 plays, and they're already in the red zone, and they score a touchdown. Like, you wonder how the game changes just off that play. Because, well, the Bucs have the first drive. Based on how well the Bucs offense played in this game, which was the biggest great positive takeaway for Tampa Bay, is their offense looks back. Their offense looked great in this game for a majority of the day, and they did whatever they wanted in the passing game. If Tampa has the first series, and even if they go down with what they did in the first series, which was a field goal, that changes the entire game because it puts the game in a different script, right? The Chiefs were able to get a touchdown for a free possession off a kick return fumble. Then the Bucs responded with a field goal, so it's 7-3. But then instantly the Chiefs, with the way they were dominating offensively, go up 14-3. All of a sudden you're in a really tough spot. Instead of it being 3-0 Bucs, 7-3 Chiefs, and then you go from there, right? You're not put in this spot of 14-3 right off the jump, which is where the Bucs found themselves. That's where they found themselves in this game. Now, my biggest critique of Todd Bowles' game plan in this game is the Chiefs don't have Tyreek Hill anymore. And this was the biggest frustrating point that I saw from Todd Bowles' approach. I thought Todd Bowles played way too soft in this game. I thought his coverage, his two-man shells, way too soft. The soft coverage on the outside, the soft in the box play early against the run. Dare the Chiefs to make big plays like they used to against you with Tyreek Hill. They don't have that guy anymore. We saw what the Colts did last week. The Colts played in their face. The Colts played physical. The Colts played man more than they usually play man. Play some more man. Trust your back end, your corners that are playing fantastic football this year, to cover Juju and Valdez-Scantling. Force those guys to beat you. Instead, you make life easy on them. You allow them to do whatever they want on early downs by throwing the ball underneath to their best player, Travis Kelce, because you're dropping back into cover 2 zone. So all Mahomes has got to do is he's got to snap the ball and hit the little underneath route for 6 yards. So that just consistently happened all day long, where the Bucs are dropping into these zone coverages that Andy Reid has all the answers to. Kelsey's finding the spots in the zone. Juju's finding the spots in the zone. And they're gashing you in these big plays vertically down the field. Valdez-Scantling down the seam. Nobody's tracking him. Nobody's following him. When you're playing this brilliant offensive attack that seems to have all the answers to your zone coverage, simplify it. Play man coverage. It doesn't really feel that hard, right? RPOs. It's easier to play RPOs when you play man coverage because at least your man is following the receiver so that you can't be diced up the middle of the field. And what I thought was particularly very smart by the Chiefs was they put Devin White and Levante David in a lot of challenging predicaments to play the run or play the pass, and they would throw the ball over their heads or they'd make life difficult in the middle of the field using Travis Kelce, using Juju, using Valdez-Scantling vertically down the field to challenge them to play two things at once. And I just felt like Todd Bowles made his defense's job way too difficult. And I think if these two teams play again, I understand it's a crime to blitz Mahomes, but play your typical style, man. Play more aggressive. Take it to the offense. And I felt like at no point was Bowles taking it to the Chiefs. He played way too conservative, way too soft. And what's the worst that could happen? They're already dominating possession. They're already moving the ball down the field at will. What's the worst that can happen? They can complete a 40-yard pass. Oh, well, at least Brady gets the ball back quicker and they can score. Like, it doesn't keep them off the field the whole game. Like, to me, I just felt like Bowles did not play like Bowles. Bowles was playing like, okay, yeah, we're playing Tyreek Hill. We're not playing Tyreek Hill anymore. So they didn't even try to take away their best player in Travis Kelce in this game. And they let them run the ball better than they've run the ball in 3 years. Like, nothing the Bucs did in this game defensively made any sense from a scheme perspective, made any sense from a game plan perspective. Their defense definitely seemed to take a hit when Logan Ryan got injured. Their defense definitely seems to miss the big presence inside against the run of rather Ndamukong Suh or Akeem Hicks. Maybe they look to sign Ndamukong Suh now to bring him in. But they weren't good. They've got to get back to fundamental Todd Bowles defense, and I think they've got to play more aggressive. Now that the Bucs offense is back, you don't have to play as conservatively. You can play more aggressive. You can take it to the offense because, okay, who cares? We're going to get stops because we're playing aggressive, but we're also going to give up big plays. But we know the Bucs offense now can answer, and that's a positive takeaway for the Bucs is Tom Brady was fantastic in this game. I thought he was phenomenal in the game. Besides the strip sack fumble where he should have seen that coming. He usually sees that coming. Very rare mistake from Tom Brady. The guy was on the money with every throw. They threw the ball 52 times. They ran the ball for -6 yards. And the guy was awesome in the game. I mean, he was the only good thing about the game. Him and the receivers, especially Mike Evans, who had a great game. But the Chiefs couldn't cover them all game. They just couldn't cover them. And Julio didn't really play in this game because he was, of course, coming back from injury. He only played like 5 snaps. But Chris Godwin looked good. Thank you that he is okay from that scare in the game. But I was very, very delighted to see that the Bucs passing attack was in rhythm and was playing very good football. Would you like to see them run the ball better? Would you like to see them run the ball more? Yes, of course, the script kind of played an impact and played a role in that, absolutely. But they'll get back to running the ball a bit more. But I think it's clear that the Bucs offense and the Bucs as a team are best when Brady throws the football in early downs. When this is a 70% pass team, that is what the Bucs should be. I'm not worried about them moving forward. Not one bit. Am I higher on the Chiefs now? I think you've got to be higher on the potential upside of the offense. Honestly, I don't think the offense is ever going to play this well, than last night. Just because, it was perfect. It was literally as perfect as it could be. There was a couple drops, yeah, but that's going to happen in every game. Pacheco and Clyde were awesome. I think the more that Pacheco gets the ball, the better for Kansas City on the ground. But really, this was about as perfect as this game could go for Kansas City's offense. And that's why I'm not too worried about the defense of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think that it's really promising that the Bucs now have kind of a softer schedule coming up. They can continue to build upon what they did in this game from an offensive standpoint. They can get back to what they were doing so well on defense, and they've got to get back to that aggressive identity for me on defense. If they allow Kansas City and teams like Kansas City in the playoffs, in big games, play the way they want to play without dictating the way you must play on offense, they will play bad on defense. And I think that the Bucs are still a championship caliber team to me. I am not that worried about it. I just think this game went poorly. They did not play well, and we've seen this from this team before. I think most of the blame has to go on Todd, and I know that he's going to take the blame, and I think that most of the adulation and respect and credit must go on Andy Reid for showing why he's Andy Reid. And Mahomes made some magical plays. Travis Kelce did his thing, but a lot of this was Andy Reid having his revenge on Todd Bowles. So congratulations to Andy Reid for getting that. Of course, this doesn't change anything from the Super Bowl. You know, the Super Bowl, regular season win in week 4 is not going to change you losing in the Super Bowl, but it is a big win. It is a huge win, and there's good and bad to take away from Tampa Bay. A lot of Tampa fans are going to be panicked from what they saw from their running game. Who cares? Brady's got to throw it. But their defense, sure, it's not as good as it was in the first 3 weeks. Nobody thought it was as good as it was in the first 3 weeks, but it's still very good. I think they'll find the answers against the run because they have too good of personnel to not be able to do it, all right? It's a great game by Kansas City. Credit them for the big win. That's a big win for them from a momentum perspective, from an identity perspective offensively, because a lot of people were questioning them last week. So that's huge for them. I just want to say, though, that I think a lot of it also had to do with Tampa Bay just playing like ass, because Tampa has done this how many times over the past 2 years where they play terrible. Like they play the Saints and like Drew Brees on Sunday night at home, and they got absolutely destroyed, right? They just seem to have these games that elite coaches would not have. Andy Reid would never have a game like this. Bill Belichick, if he's coaching this game, there's no way the Bucs play like this. Like, there's no way. So it was too much. Really, the only chance the Bucs had in this game, the way it went, it was Brady having like a historic game. Now, that's just not going to get it done against great teams. So credit the Chiefs for taking it, and the Bucs need to go back to the drawing board, but I'm not panicked about them. They'll find their way back, and I'm not panicked about the defense either. Kansas City, I want to see them play better defense, though. I thought their pass rush wasn't there all game. I mean, I think it's a bit concerning that their pass rush didn't really get it done, despite Brady throwing it 52 times. They literally did not run it after like the first quarter, and they still couldn't get a pass rush. I know that they have a couple guys injured in the secondary, but still, their secondary, there's not too many times they're going to face Mike Evans and Chris Godwin and all that, but their defense wasn't very good, when they needed some stops to put the game away. They did make a couple plays like the strip fumble, but that was kind of the difference to me, was the coaching on both sides. Spagnuolo called a couple nice key blitzes that got them off the field, and Todd Bowles just didn't make any difference there. And Byron Leftwich, I mean, he's just Byron Leftwich at this point. So thank you guys for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed this review. That is my big Week 4 review, reaction, and my takeaways from Week 4. Gronk spiked the like button. Subscribe to the channel. It's Mitch. Thanks for watching. Peace. Enjoy Monday Night Football.